Hey, world schooling and traveling families. Are you or someone you know planning for Italy this spring? Join us on the vibrant streets of southern Italy at our Naples World School pop-up hub from April 27th to May 3rd. We'll explore ancient aqueducts, wander the art-filled Spanish quarters, and take epic trips to Pompeii. It's the perfect chance to build community and travel buddies while soaking up the local culture. Ready to join us? Head over to the Facebook group to check the latest kid counts, ask questions, and connect with other families. I can't wait to see you all in Naples this April. Hello, traveling families. Today's episode is incredibly special because we are joining thousands of creators for the 4th edition of Podcast-thon. For 1 week, podcasters around the world are highlighting charities that move us, and I'm honored to shine a light on the Make-A-Wish Foundation. My guest today has a story that truly defines resilience. As a teenager, Jodie faced a daunting battle with cancer and became an above-the-knee amputee. Through that journey, Make-A-Wish Foundation was a vital source of joy and hope, and her Make-A-Wish trip to Hawaii kickstarted her love of travel. I am so happy to welcome advocates for accessible travel, Jodie and Anthony St. Clair, to share their travel origin stories, the convenient timing of their RV purchase, their transition to full-time travels with their now 14 and 11-year-old kids, and what prompted them to purchase a condo in Japan as their home base. Stick around to the end to learn more about Podcast-thon. Welcome to the Wander World School podcast. I'm Susie, a travel-loving money nerd, mom of 2, and our family lives between Spain and Colorado. On this show, we discuss the stories, logistics, and finances of traveling families and the many ways to learn along the way. Today, we get to know Anthony and Jodie St. Clair. Please tell me more about you and your family.
We are a family of 4. Our kids are 14 and 11, and we have been traveling full-time since August 2022. We now have a little bit of a base in Japan that we will talk more about as we get into it, but we are not living in Japan. We're still just traveling on a tourist visa in Japan.
Very cool. Yes, I'm excited to hear more about Japan because I told you we're heading there this fall. It's going to be very new to our whole family.
You are going to have so much fun, and you are going to be just fine.
Great. Thank you. I always like to take it back, either pre-kids or when you were growing up. Where did each of your love for travel begin?
I grew up in Virginia, so I got to go to New York and Washington, D.C. But when I was in college, my university had a student exchange program with a university in Edinburgh, Scotland. So I spent the first half of my senior year of college in Edinburgh, and that really changed my life. I got my first insights into backpacker culture, into the ideas of gap years, into this idea that travel could be more than just a vacation or a trip to go see family, that it could be a lifestyle, that it could be a way to get a sense of different places, different cultures for deeper growth. So fast forward from all that, when Jodie and I were getting serious and talking about the future and pondering family, we always knew we wanted to travel at least a year with our kids while we had the chance. They're ours and they're young for just such a brief bit of time. So for us, that was a way we could just get a lot of time with them and do something meaningful.
It's so important to give that opportunity. And you're right, studying abroad at those pivotal early years in someone's education can be such an eye-opening experience. So that's great.
Put it mildly.
How about you, Joe?
I am an amputee and cancer survivor. And when I was in that part of my life as a teenager, I was granted a wish from Make-A-Wish. And my wish was to go to Kauai, Hawaii. So we went to Hawaii on this wish, and that was enough to kind of spark that. And then actually, Anthony and I were in Edinburgh at almost exactly the same time. A high school theater group was performing at the Fringe Festival, which was a great honor to be able to do that. And then when I met Anthony, he was talking about these gap years, and he was talking about families going. And that was like a very new idea to me. We kind of formed this little plan that we would do this year. But as I was researching, I just realized that this dream, it was growing a lot. And I was going, there's just no way we can do what we want to do in a year. I think we should make it open-ended. And that really kind of changed how we were thinking about it. that maybe we would go and not have a return date.
How old were you when you had your Make-A-Wish experience?
So I was diagnosed at 13 and I went through a year of chemo and I wanted to do my wish after I was done with chemo. So I think I was 14, almost 15 when I did my wish. I had very short stubble hair, just growing fuzz back in. And I was more mobile and everything at that point. I should mention that with my cancer diagnosis, I also became an amputee because it was osteosarcoma, which is inside the bone. They have to remove your bone in order to remove the cancer.
So you were in your teen years when you were navigating not just cancer, but also learning to live as it's an above the knee amputation, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. What was that journey like as you adjusted to your new normal?
There's parts of it that were easier than it sounds and parts of it that are hard. It is a little bit of a lifelong journey because every once in a while something flares up and I'm like, oh, I just wish I could do that, you know? But for the most part, it was a little bit black and white. It was either like you're going to choose to survive or you're not. And you're either going to choose to flourish in that survival or not. My parents were incredibly supportive and great examples, really helpful through all of that. And that made that journey much, much easier. And I was never told you can't do that because you're an amputee or anything like that. So I didn't really feel like I had a whole lot of limits. I'd just kind of run into them naturally, which actually it was a good way, I think, to kind of discover where those limits are. And I've really come to this place of like recognizing, well, everybody has limits in some way. It's just different. And some people have more in certain seasons of their life, and some people have less in certain seasons of their life. Everybody's journey is unique in that way. So my limits just really are mostly centered around my amputation, my leg, and what I can physically do in a day.
Well, you were navigating accessible travel even before family travel.
Yes.
Because you said you were in Edinburgh. Have you all been back to Edinburgh, Scotland
Not
as a family?
Our son, he's 14. He has asked us to hold off on the UK and Ireland until he is of legal drinking age there.
He wants to have a pint with us there. So I'm trying to hold off to honor that.
That sounds like that would be a really special adventure.
Introduce the proper Irish stouts.
For sure. My brother and I went to the Guinness when we were in Ireland a long time ago. Had a lot of fun on a pub crawl. Yeah. What has family travel looked like? You mentioned your goals around introducing travel to your children. What did travel look like when they were younger? And then this journey has been about 3.5 years.
When our children were younger, we lived in Western Oregon and Eugene. So we could, within an hour, go from our front door to the Oregon coast. We could go to the mountains. We could be on hiking trails in the forest, you name it. So a lot of our travels when they were younger were throughout the state. And then as they got older, during the pandemic years, we had gotten a pop-up camper.
We bought our pop-up camper in February of 2020. It could not have been a better time to get the pop-up camp. We did more travel through the pandemic than we ever had as a family because it was something we could do. And we could do it safely. We could go out on our own. We always homeschooled, so we always had a little bit more flexibility.
We wound up doing this giant camping trip just all up and down California. We had already been talking about when we would start our travels, but seeing that we could handle over a month of camping, it was like, ooh, we can do this. We can travel the world. And you know what? We're starting now. When we got back from that trip in March of 2022, that's when it was go time.
We started selling everything.
Including that camper.
Yeah, including the camper, which was bittersweet, but it was that necessary step to move on to the next thing.
There's no home base back in Oregon then?
Not anymore. We owned our home in Eugene. We rented it out long terms. We had tenants in there. We built a little storage room in the back of our garage. So anything we were keeping but not traveling with, we could just keep in there. We did that for a while. We actually sold the house in 2024. Having the house and renting it out was a way to say, hey, you know what? If we decide this isn't working for us, if we're done, then we could go back. But over time, so, well, how we are living is changing. If we were going back, this house wouldn't work for us anymore. There are different things we would want. So it was more favorable to sell it than we did than to wait. And that was one of the hardest but best choices we made. Our house meant so much to us. I proposed to Jodie there. We raised our babies there. We did all these amazing things. And that house made so many things possible for us. But it was so important when we realized, oh, this is no longer serving the life that we want. It's time to let it go so it can now serve another family.
That's so well put. And I can see how your experiences of venturing out into the RV and then taking some trip and then renting it out so you had a little bit of a backup if needed, that took years to then finally come to that point of, hey, this makes financial sense, logistical sense to let go of this and move on and make space in your life for these new adventures. So kid 14, what was your second age? 11. Okay. What are their thoughts about travel over these last couple of years?
Generally, they really like traveling and they really love experiencing new places. They love being in Asia. I mean, that is definitely our favorite area to be in so far. We're very careful to try to listen to what they're saying. And that way, if they're like showing something that they're not liking, it doesn't necessarily mean that we would stop, but it does mean that we might modify what we're doing.
We've never been a because I said so family. We've been much more of a what can we work out together family. We have always wanted them to know they had agency, they will be heard, and we'll make better choices as a family if we're all communicating and all figuring out those gives and takes, those bits of compromise that are a good life skill all on their own at any age.
Give your family the ultimate travel tool, the gift of language. Preply's one-on-one native-speaking tutors make world schooling more immersive and fun, fitting perfectly into your busy travel schedule. Whether you're preparing for Spain or Japan, start talking today. I've been using Preply for years with great success. Use the link in the show notes to get 70% off your first lesson.
And then we also just try to pay attention a little bit to the things that are unsaid, too. We can notice if it seems more severe or something and go, well, what do we want to do about that? And that's actually part of why we ended up buying our condo in Japan, because we were really craving a space that we could just come back to a little bit more regularly. It works really well for us because we can't live there permanently. We don't have residency. We don't have any kind of visa where we can live there longer than a tourist visa. It really is just a vacation home. And we like that because it does keep us traveling, doing the things that we like. But at the same time, now we do have this place where they have a room and they have a space that they can bring little souvenirs to or whatever and decorate and all of those things that they were craving a little bit more of that. We found somewhere in the middle where we can continue to do the adventure and travel that we especially like. I feel like our kids really like it.
I love working together. That's like something I always try to say, how can we figure this out together?
Yeah.
So good ethos to move forward. But you mentioned the home base in Japan. When did you all first venture to Japan? What really struck you about Japan as a place that you return back to over and over and now have purchased a property there?
So our very first trip to Japan was in 2013. Connor was just 15 months old. And we went because I was going for a professional conference. I was a Suzuki violin teacher, so the Suzuki method originated there. And I really wanted to go. When the opportunity showed, we were like, we're going to do whatever we can to go. And we really did that trip on a budget. We couch surfed through most of that trip with our toddler. And it was such a fantastic experience. We stayed with bachelors who were like still living with their moms. We stayed with couples that were like foreigners to Japan that were there living. We stayed with couples and families that were native Japanese. People wanted English speakers to come into their homes, especially when they had kids. They were like, my kids are going to get to hear and practice English with you around. And we were like, great. We're fine. We'll talk all you want. We did that trip. It was 3 weeks long and we just fell in love. And we always knew we would go back. You know, you hear a lot too, like, why would you travel with your kid? You're 15 months old. Like, he's not going to remember that. That's a huge trip. But we really saw that trip shaped Connor. For sure. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. There are just certain things. It's partly because we talked about that trip. It's part of our family mythology. It's part of our story. He has always liked Japanese food, and he's always just been kind of fascinated with Japan. And so when we were traveling full time, Japan had not opened back up yet from COVID.
I want to say it was about October, November of 2022 when we got word that it was reopening.
Yep.
Like, we're working on it.
We were already in Asia. We went to Thailand. We spent some time in Cambodia and Vietnam. It was a really easy yes to say, we're going to Japan again.
So we got to be there in spring of 2023. We were in Osaka for the cherry blossom season or sakura season. Being there, Jodie and I definitely wondered, how will the dynamic be as a family of four? What will kind of match up with what we remember and what we experienced 10 years ago? We were there for about 6 weeks. And by the time we left, the kids were like, when are we coming back? The thing about going to Japan, it can seem very different initially, but then there is just so much that you quickly understand. It is so safe. It is so easy to get around. The food is just straight up incredible at every spending level and everything from the highest end restaurant and the tallest high rise in Tokyo to the everyday convenience store on the corner. All of those things come together then too with this culture that has such deep history. So being there, you are just enmeshed in this fascinating place where there is this baseline kindness and safety and ease of getting around. It is so nice to just be there and go.
It's very quiet. I mean, whenever we leave, we have to kind of like recalibrate.
There is no quiet like Japan quiet.
What I've heard is there's so much pride in what you do and how you take care of yourself and your job and your community and the people around you. And that's why it is so clean and safe.
Yeah.
There is very much a sense that you have a responsibility to the people around you to be considerate, to follow overall social norms. And, when you're not Japanese, you get the pass to a certain level, but still there's some expectation. You're a guest in someone else's home, essentially. And we value being a good guest a great deal. And that's in trying to always know at least a few phrases in the local language. It is having an open mind toward the food, accepting that, hey, we're not from here, but we know that being here makes us better people. We know that's because this place is so amazing. So we try to just keep that very front and center in what we do, how we interact. I think it comes through pretty well. People can tell it's like, hey, you appreciate being here, and we take a lot of pride this place in our home. So cool. We love that you're here.
I like that. What do I tell my 6 going on 7-year-old though, who does not know how to keep quiet, especially in public? I will say that is something I'm a little worried about.
Yeah, I would say
Sure.
Japanese kids are Japanese kids. Like, they're not quiet
Good.
everywhere. They're like acceptable places and times. As a parent, you just got to kind of know where to prioritize. Like inside the train station, maybe not the best place to like run around like it's a playground, but the playground or the park, I think it's just having awareness of the right time and place, right? I always try to balance it with like managed time versus freedom of movement time. Are the two like big things. And traveling, especially when sightseeing, kids are often very managed, right? And so if there's too much of that, it can be disastrous. And kids need that balance of total freedom of movement. I'm going down the slide and swinging on the swings, and I can decide I'm going over here and I'm going over there.
For example, if you're in Tokyo, you want to have some cultural experiences, check out some museums. If you head over, say, to Ueno Park, giant park area, plenty of green space, paths, playground, ways to get that big movement time. But also right there are lots of different museums and other cultural landmarks. So you can find that balance. One other area that we always like to recommend for this, especially with younger children, is in Osaka. There's this place called Sumiyoshi Temple. It's one of the most major temples in Osaka. You often see people going there because it's always been associated with good tidings for the port, for business, But also you'll see a lot of parents with newborns because it's a place that people take their newborn children for blessings. Beautiful place. Naturally, it's where you want to be a little more serene. But then you cross the road and go through into Subiyoshi Park, where there's a giant playground. And then in another corner of the park, if you just want a little chill time, there's a massive cherry tree grove with a beautiful pond. So you can very easily, within 5 minutes of one another, get that range of experience.
I'll definitely be taking advantage of that recommendation to balance those two. When did the thought to purchase in Japan come to play?
I think it was somewhere around mid to later 2024 when we'd been kicking it around. I think you had seen some things about what are called akiyo, which is just kind of a term that means a non-occupied home. I had found some people, like some podcasts and services and whatnot, who were there to help foreigners if they wanted to buy like an investment property, if they wanted to buy a vacation home. We were in Japan throughout the end of 2024. We spent some time in Tokyo. We spent some time at the southern main island of Kyushu. There's a great city there called Kumamoto that we spent a month in, and another month in a city on the other side of the island called Oita. And after that, where we'd been so just steeped in neighborhoods and just got to talk to more people, engage more, and just see how much we all thrived being around just different parts of Japan. That, I think, is what really set it.
Okay, I'm going to add a couple other things here. So we were talking about the pop-up camper and how bittersweet it was to sell that. But I mean, we have enough experience now of making those big shifts and seeing that, especially even like financially, when you make that shift and you change something, then it just opens up new doors. We wouldn't have even considered it without selling our house first.
That's true.
Our house needed to be sold. So we did that in the summer of 2024. We took a cruise after that from Seattle to Tokyo when we spent those 3 months Anthony was talking about in Kumamoto. And part of it was it's really, really difficult actually to find a family-sized housing for longer term stay in Japan. Osaka is the best. If you want to stay like a month or more, Osaka has more available. It has to do with some laws and regulations around Airbnbs and whatnot. We're okay with like kind of stacking up a little bit, but like there are certain comforts because we're staying long term. We really like. We really want to come back to Japan often, and we're having a hard time finding places we can stay longer and fit well. Part of doing this sustainably is definitely like having spaces we feel comfortable in. And since Japan is so important to us, we really want to find a place. It's kind of funny. We ended up buying in the Osaka area, even though that is the easier place to find housing. But part of that is because we really want to be able to hang out with other traveling families too. And since that is such an easy place for other traveling families to find housing, world schoolers like us, we were really interested in kind of being in that area.
We also especially liked the Osaka area. We appreciate your first tier cities, your Tokyos, your New York, your Parises. Those are great. We're more second city people.
Yeah.
A city like Osaka just fits our personal style better. And there are some logistical things. You can be at Kansai International Airport, so you can actually fly in and out of Osaka without having to go through Tokyo. So that's a huge bonus. We love the location. It's on more the central part of the main island of Honshu, so about 3 hours on the Shinkansen, the bullet train, to go back to Tokyo. Kyoto's a half an hour away. Destinations like Hiroshima are, I believe it's about another 2 hours west. So there's this wonderful convenience to being in the Osaka area that appealed to us a great deal. So once we factored all that together, combined with a favorable yen to dollar ratio, and we had set aside some proceeds from selling our house. I was like, yeah, whether it's somewhere around the world, whether it's somewhere in the US, some chunk of this will be going toward our next base, essentially. And it just happened that this little condo in Japan.
I love it. That's so cool. And I know you have some videos that give a tour and share a little bit more about it. So I'll make sure to link to that because I feel like there could be a lot of questions and we could deep dive into that. But overall, it sounds like you're very happy with having this home base there. And what months do you try to stay in Japan or plan to be there?
Tell you what we never want to do again, which is what we did.
Was the summer.
July and August.
July, August, and September, we did this last year. Those particular 3 months in a row will, like, hopefully never again. Like, it was brutal. And this summer was record heats and all of that, so it was very difficult. I mean, we've been a lot of hot and humid places, but I think what makes it different, I've thought about this a lot. Why is it so different? You just have to walk outside a lot. We would have to walk almost a kilometer just to get to the train station. And the train stations everything's air conditioned, like when you're at the train station. But then you're walking, if you're going in the summer, which if the summer's the only time you can go, Japan time is better than no Japan time. So I don't say don't go.
That's a great quote.
But you will need to change your trip from what I kind of think of as like the textbook Japan trip.
Yeah, you want to balance in a lot more indoor attractions and destinations, or make sure you have some of the downtime. Or anytime we duck into the convenience store. It's air conditioned. There are cold drinks that are very affordable. We try to aim for a lot of spring visit and fall. Fall is actually, I think, our favorite time to be there. The fall
Because I'll be there all
leaves.
fall.
You get
It's great.
you get the reds of the maples, you get the golds of the ginkgos,
Pretty.
the leaves, and the appreciation of fall is essentially on par with the spring cherry blossoms. It's just different, and it's cooling down. A lot of the big tourist push is subsiding. It is such a wonderful time.
Happy to hear that because fall is my favorite season. I mean, I like them all for various reasons, but fall it just is so
so
perfect.
special.
So
Yeah.
that's going to be so fun. So you mentioned homeschooling. Share a little more about how you've been balancing education with travels.
It's evolved over time as our kids have aged and progressed in their education. So younger years, we would have a lot more physical materials. Our kids had varying handwriting, copywork, things like that. We would build in, say, if we're RVing in the States, national parks, state parks are a huge priority in those travels because there's just unparalleled opportunities for wildlife. Junior ranger programs at our national park sites are one of the best parts of our culture. And as a friend of mine once pointed out, there is no upper age limit on being a junior ranger.
Good to know.
Our kids were starting to move more to online when we started traveling full time. So that definitely helped. Once they can move to like a Kindle or some sort of e-reader, that makes it a lot easier.
It's true. We got my oldest his first Kindle for Christmas last year, and he's obsessed. I love it. It's just so amazing with traveling.
Yeah.
We're very lucky to have these opportunities. But that is the benefit with some older kids that they can really navigate learning through an online system, take some more independence with it as well.
Having the digital tools that we have access to make this lifestyle, especially with kids, so much more feasible. Like our daughter, we subscribe to a math program called Beast Academy that she uses for her math lessons. It's got great structure, and we can sit down with her. She's got materials. We can talk things through, and she can keep working at her pace. Our son has now progressed to doing some high school level work. So he's doing a lot of Khan Academy.
And there's just the hands-on of
Yes,
like wherever we're going and what we're doing.
It's like the history, the culture.
We try to put in some life skills as well as the academic skills so that our kids are feeling confident in those areas as well. Some money skills of managing money in different currencies, but also just saving and investing. And our son, Connor, he's started doing some of his own investing as he has been able to read up and learn a little bit more. I mean, we're really proud of him for taking initiative on that stuff too.
And then there are a lot of little things. Like if we are in a convenience store or some other shop, the kids have to do their own talking. If there's something they need, something they want to buy, they have to go to the register. They talk to the adults. If they have some different language that they need to work in, they work that in. It's good practice. It's self-confidence. And then it's also handling money, counting change, making sure everything's correct. Those little things help a lot too. We also love to tie in, especially in our international travels, all sorts of different classes, especially cooking classes. So they've done things like learn to make beef noodle soup in Taiwan and soup dumplings. And they've learned how to make Vietnamese coffee in Vietnam. And so tying in those also add this togetherness as a family. It adds practical skills, and it's a way to balance out the things we do digitally with our reading or schooling or whatnot with something hands-on in-person, full sensory experience. So it keeps things more balanced in that way too.
That's so true. And you're getting science in there. I mean, there's just so much with cooking. And then at the end, you have a delicious product that is a family can enjoy together. It's like a win-win in all aspects. And you brought up the money piece, the financial piece, which I think is so important to start kids young. Power compound interest is in their favor, right? And I was a participant, and I think I had already been following you on Instagram or something. And then you were in the Coast Fi workshop. And just for anyone listening, Coast Fi is basically when you've saved and invested enough that it can just work in the background, keep growing till retirement, but you can step on the brakes a little bit with the investing part of it. What has the financial piece look like for you all, either in the typical expenses that you've had along the way? Are you still working online? You have the YouTube channel, which is really cool. Fill me in on what that looks like.
I should have said this earlier. One, we are not rich. We are not trust fund babies. We did not win the lottery.
I'm sure you guys have had this too, but a lot of people immediately assume, oh, you're traveling full time. You must just have endless amount of money, right? And we have to explain no, not at all. We really actually save a lot of money by traveling full time. That is part of our money strategy. So our budget is we kind of have a range because our housing and stuff is not set. So we have an average that we want to hit. And so we look at it kind of big picture. And for us, usually we're able to find accommodation somewhere around the $1,800 per month. At this point, our kids really enjoy having their own rooms. There are occasionally times where they share still if we need to. But that includes our housing, our internet, heating, any electricity. We're not paying anything else on top of that.
So we look a lot more now at how the overall year balances out. Because we'll have months say, oh, we're spending $1,800 or $2,000 on accommodation for this month. But then say when we're in our condo, which we own free and clear, well, that's for much more minimal cost. So the month-to-month swings matter, and it's good to have a sense of our overall target. But then as we look more every 3 months, 6 months, that year, we have a far more meaningful picture of, okay, great, this is where the finances are, this is what we've spent. Other things like food activities, well, food is also in part an activity for us. It's our favorite activity. Food, we're typically spending $600 to $1,000 on a month. Groceries, often we're dining out a touch more, depends on the place. And somewhat tied into that, sometimes not, just depending again on the place. Maybe there's another $200 to $400 on different activities, or if we take a look at
cooking classes or a tour of some place. Yeah.
But again, we don't say own a car in the US. We don't have insurance or a car payment or other factors. Those things are more freed up to go towards our financial independence journey, our Coast By journey, or going toward our travels, which is both in the moment, but also an investment in our quality of life, an investment in our children's range of experiences for their own futures, and doing something that most people, as they get older, as they move toward retirement, travel is one of the main things people wish they had done more of in their younger years. And we know too, we will age. Jodie may have concerns that make it less possible for us to travel over the years. I might have things that make that harder. So you know what? You do it now, we don't have to wonder what if.
Yeah, I already have some limits with my mobility, right? And I'm very, as far as amputees go, I'm pretty mobile. I do a lot, but I also know that can change. I didn't want to wait to do this kind of travel in retirement because I really felt like I can do so much more now and I want to enjoy it now. You just don't know what the future will bring, but I'm really glad that we are taking the opportunity now.
We understood that we could do it now. Things had lined up that we could do it now, and that gave us both a sense of urgency and a responsibility and a joy to do it now.
So that's really well put, that if you think of the seasonality of life and how things will shift and you get that perspective, especially as kids get a little older, it makes that even more important to take advantage of the opportunities we're given today. With the accessibility piece, how does Japan work out? Like, is there quite a bit of accessibility opportunities? And maybe this is for people with various mobility challenges. And then are there also cities and countries that are really well equipped for people that have any mobility challenges?
I come to realize like every place has its areas where it's like really great and then areas where they need a lot of improvement. And I would say overall, Japan is very good. One of the areas that I don't need a lot of accessibility in is accessible hotel rooms. That is an area that I've seen over and over, like difficulties for Japan. Overall, the things that I need in accessibility, like great sidewalks, easy to use surfaces as far as like getting places, easy to get on and off trains, seating when I'm on the train for sure, or a bus. All those things are like really important. And in Japan does really, really well. I would say Taiwan was also really accessible. There is a lot of motorbike usage in Taiwan, but they tend to actually park their motorbikes. Even though it is on the sidewalk, they tend to be a little bit more organized and in designated places so that there's still walking space on the sidewalk. There are a little bit more like steps along the sidewalk occasionally instead of ramps. So if you were in a wheelchair, it would be a little bit more difficult.
I would say Singapore has very good access. Infrastructure is newer, especially. There's just a lot more mindset around things being level, things being wide. You don't have as much older stuff that was just, hey, this is what we built at the time. So Singapore can be very easy to get around. And then
Yeah.
some things just depend on just that terrain. A lot of Portugal, incredible places, you have good infrastructure, but it's just innately hilly.
Very hilly.
Whereas, say, Sevilla, Spain, much flatter, a lot easier on that front.
Even like Morocco was pretty easy with accessibility. The Medinas were sometimes a little tricky, but when you were like actually in the city, a lot of great sidewalk. The one tricky thing was sometimes there's just this fine layer of sand on the sidewalk. You can't control it, but because it's from the Sahara Desert there, and it makes just a little slippery surface, which means I'm just working harder. That's all. You can't totally know, yeah, what each place is going to be like until you're there. And for me, usually if it's less accessible, it just means more energy expenditure. It's a little harder for me to do as much. And I'm going to have to pace my days a little bit differently. We've spent a lot of time in Vietnam, and Vietnam is not very accessible. There's a lot of motorbikes parked all over the sidewalk. You're going to walk in the street quite a bit, and sometimes it's a little dangerous feeling, or lots of different surfaces. It's tricky to get around walking, but I just know it's going to take me longer to get from point A to point B because I have more stuff I have to dodge. I have more stuff I have to go around.
It's all about learning what you need. And of course, the more we travel, the more we tune into what our needs are, what our limits are, how to balance that with the family desires and needs. So I think that's where actually, as you travel more long term, full term, you actually can pick up on those cues that you need, your family needs, and accommodate some of that a little easier than when you travel somewhat intermittently. You forget all that somewhat. But you're like, let's go and explore all day. And then you're like, hold up, this was challenging to me. I need to take tomorrow off.
Especially when our kids were little, we kind of got into the practice of travel. And that can mean like a day trip, like, or not even staying somewhere overnight. It can mean just like going out to some place outside of your city or whatever. That's fine. That counts. You don't have to stay somewhere. Just go out somewhere for the day and then come back home. And then we would expand it out to someplace just overnight, or someplace for a weekend or whatever. And you just get better and better and better at it. In that way, too, you can do it very reasonably. It doesn't have to be something super expensive. Start with something cheap and accessible right near you, and then move on from there.
Just pick that thing that's been nagging at you that keeps being on the list and just go, okay, we're getting this done. And then you build out from there.
Exactly. And then before you know it, you purchased a condo in Japan. It's a slippery slope towards buying a home base in Japan. Maybe we'll be like a year from this fall, I'll be like, okay, I need to buy now since we've fallen in love.
I don't know. I did say if anybody wants more information on traveling to Japan, we do have a lot of information, both in video and on our website. Feel free to just message us. Obviously, we love talking about it and we love giving recommendations and we love trying to help people find the trip that's meaningful for them because there are so many avenues of finding the Japan trip that's like right for you. There is very much like that first trip to Japan, and it's great. There's a reason it's that first trip to Japan most people do. But if you really want to cater it to you, like there are so many ways to do that. And Japan has so many things to offer.
I will make sure to link to your YouTube because I know you share a lot of wonderful tips and tricks there, and people can connect if they want some more Japan tidbits. And also, I know you're running the World Schooling in Osaka Facebook group.
Yes,
right?
it's on Facebook right now. Connect if you're coming to Osaka. It's just an organic kind of meetup style group, and it's just starting. It's in its baby stages. So we would love to see you there and would love to connect and hopefully meet up with some people. We're going to be there in April. We'll be there for 3 months.
Perfect. So you're avoiding summer this year. That is good.
Yes, our plan is
And-
April through June, and then we'll be gone and we'll come back October through December.
Yeah, we're planning to spend July and August in some new to us parts of Europe, like Finland, Baltic states, Poland.
This has been so great to chat. I'll make sure to link everything in the show notes.
It's been so great talking with you. And all those families out there, just trust. You can travel to so many different places than you might realize, and you can have an amazing time. You can find safety. You can find people. You can have great experiences. You can do it.
Oh, that's perfect to end on. Thank you so much. This special episode highlighted the significance of Make-A-Wish Foundation for young people like Jodie. Make-A-Wish grants life-changing wishes to children aged 3 to 17 diagnosed with critical illnesses. Supporters can become wish makers through donations or fundraising. To learn more about Make-A-Wish Foundation, visit www.podcastthon.org, linked in the show notes. What a great episode! Want more? Join us for the virtual World Schoolers Meetup on March 19th. We'll be connecting at 7 a.m. in California, 8 a.m. in Denver, 10 a.m. in New York, 3 p.m. in Central Europe, and 10 p.m. in Vietnam. We can't wait to see your faces and hear about your adventures. Sign up in the show notes. Loving the show? Share it with a travel buddy. See you next time.